had a case. It was in Jeff Davis Parish, and I had a young fella. He was probably 20 years old or something, and he was accused of being a crack dealer. And and the way he got caught was he had the baggy pants on, and when he ran from the cops, because he had the baggy pants, they fell down around his ankles and tripped him, and it was easy for the cops to catch him. So anyhow, I'm meeting with him at the courthouse on arraignment day, and I've got a deal worked out, and he's not going to do any time, and I did a great job. I got him all set up. He's going to walk out that day, and they said he had 33 crack rocks, and he said, I'm not taking the deal because they're lying.
Bad more.
He said, I had 38 crack rocks. I swear he said that. And I'm just looking at him, and I'm like, some people, you just can't help them.
I gotta pee.
He had 38, not 33.
The man felt offended.
I guess his sense of he was
I
offended.
gotta go to I'm sorry. I was holding it, but when
I would allow to touch to this, okay? So just bear with me, okay? Bear with me. Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Haitian Kings Podcast, where we dive deep into the stories of remarkable people who are making waves in the community and beyond. Today, we have the honor of sitting down with a man who wears many hats. He's not only the Lake Charles City Court judge, but also a seasoned injury lawyer and the driving force behind Wishart Law Firm. From his journey into law to his passion for justice and community service, this episode promised to be both insightful and inspiring. Without further ado, let's welcome George Ron Wishart to the show. Man, you know how many practice I had to do to say your name right?
We say Richard and you lean on the re. Richard. It's French. Just think of it that way. Y'all speak French?
Yeah.
Tu parles français en Richard, man.
Yeah. Thank you for coming to the show, man.
My pleasure.
Now, how you doing? How you feeling?
I can't complain at all. It's been a great week, and I've learned more and more about y'all. Saw y'all's podcast, and I consider it an honor to be able to come over here and just talk about Lake Charles and the community and sort of what I'm involved in with around here, and hopefully help introduce y'all to more of the community.
Oh, absolutely. We're looking forward to it. We got to say, man, like it's an honor to finally sit down and talk to you. And I'm sure the conversation is going to be amazing. We got like a few questions we want to ask somebody within your stature. And then from there on out, we're going to take it.
Perfect.
So let's start with question number one.
Sure.
Give us the background, the journey. How did it start? What changed your mind? What gravitated your mind towards being within the law industry?
You know, I'm an odd bird, and I'm sure anybody watching this will say, "Oh, he sure is." Okay, but really, since I was 5 years old, there was two things I wanted to be. I either wanted to be the garbage man who rode on the back of the garbage truck. Because it would deliver, they'd come and they'd pick up the garbage at your house, and we'd look out the window, and that just seemed so cool. Or I wanted to be a trial lawyer. I wanted to be a lawyer. And my mom would die laughing. She'd say, please quit telling people you want to be the garbage man and tell them you want to be the lawyer. But from very, very young age, I wanted to be involved in law because I saw it as something that allowed you to, one, help people and help them out with their problems. And at the same time, you could make a good living from it. And so, it's not like I had a specific teacher that inspired me or anything like that. I just, from the very beginning, I wanted to be a lawyer that helped people. And then as I got, my family was plumbers. Richard Plumbing, Pistols Plumbing was our family business. And I grew up at a young age having to crawl under houses and crawl through the you-know-what. And I figured I would rather talk you-know-what than have to crawl through you-know-what. And so that kind of sealed the deal for me as I got a little older that I really wanted to go into law. And so from high school into college, I majored in political science and history, fields that were conducive to developing myself in the law. I was very fortunate. I got to work as a private investigator in college in Houston for some major personal injury law firms, and in fact for a gentleman by the name of Fred Hallfines, who was the mayor of Houston. And I got to learn more about the law that way, and it sealed the deal for me. I got to see the great work that could be done and the change that could be made in people's lives through the law. And I ended up getting a free ride to LSU and went to law school, and came back, and I clerked as a law clerk for the 14th Judicial District Court here my first year out of law school. And I was one of those guys that said I was never coming back to Lake Charles. I was going to go off and make it big, right? And everybody has that, they're going to go off somewhere. And I realized that year clerking that this is just such a great town, and I knew so many people that if I just worked really hard, I was going to probably do well here. And so I hung out my shingle and gave it a shot, and almost 30 years later, here I am.
Hey, ain't no other place like home, huh?
No, sorry.
So as a lawyer, so I know they got different, type of lawyer. So
right.
why you choose, you're an injury
right.
type lawyer. So why make you choose that side of it?
When you're younger, you see all the movies where they're trying cases in court, and you see the lawyer getting to put on his show. And I was pretty good at speaking and being involved in things in school that involved, being able to really be well-read and have a good vocabulary and be able to present in front of people. I really developed a skill for that. And I never wanted to be a corporate lawyer or a bankruptcy lawyer or a family court lawyer. I wanted to be able to perform in front of the juries. Okay. And in personal injury law, it's more of what I said. You really get to help someone who's in a bad situation and help them maybe recover their life. And so that's what really led me into injury law.
So as an injury lawyer, so what is the misconception people already have about the legal system?
People think because they watch law shows on TV that it's it's simple, and that it's the truth is life's complicated. There's lots of facts that differ from one case to another, and one of the misconceptions is they'll think, well, this thing happened to my cousin, and here's the result that was achieved for him. Therefore, I should get the same result. And as a lawyer, you have to sit people down and say, yeah, but your facts are different. What happened to you factually is very different from what happened to them. And people like to think it's a cookie cutter situation where one size fits all. It does not. Every case is very different. And trying to get clients and folks to understand that every case is different is a hard thing. And that's a misconception people have about the law.
And I'm sure as you're saying that, and you kind of touched upon that also. So have you ever had somebody who's going to who has like an injury, and approach you and tell you in advance how much money they should be making?
All the time. I mean, you get another part of the misconception is perhaps big insurance companies will like to say that we got to get rid of these lawsuits, and they're paying people all kinds of money for nothing. You stub your toe and you get $800,000. And so people will come in and they'll have, whatever injury. And sometimes it's horrible injuries, but sometimes it's a broken arm. And they're like, my broken arm, I should get, all this money. And then you have to sit them down and say, no. A broken arm is worth this much money. And they really do get this thing in their head that things are worth more because it happened to them, perhaps, than what it really is worth. And you have to understand, we as lawyers, we have what are called quantum surveys, quantum books, that show what courts have done in similar cases. Okay. And so we already know sort of what values are on different injuries and different fact patterns. But we do get the person who comes in and they're like, well, my cousin got $1 million. And I'm like, yeah, well, your cousin had a horrible, unfortunate injury and you got a broke arm. You're very lucky.
but in a sense, though, and I'm sure, I'm sure you pretty much heard about that news that kind of went viral, God knows how long ago, of that lady who wants, I don't know, millions from McDonald's.
McDonald's, yes.
From burning, from
I'm
drinking
glad-
coffee. And
I'm
that
glad-
is the most absurd thing I ever heard of.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because that's another misconception. People say, oh, she got some hot coffee from McDonald's and she spilt it on herself and got, I think it was $800,000 in punitive damages and $1 million in actual damages. A couple $1 million basically is what it added up to. And they say, she spilt the coffee her dang self. But the facts of that case are that I think that particular McDonald's had a number of complaints about you're handing this coffee out that is so much hotter than what the McDonald's regulation says it's supposed to be, and then you're handing it out through a window into a car, and then it spills. Well, not surprisingly, that happens. And that lady didn't just get a little coffee spill. She got third-degree burns on her female parts.
Oh.
You see, whenever I say it that way, y'all are like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And I actually, a few years ago, I had a very similar case.
With coffee also?
Yes. And I won't use any names, but when I say one of the dearest, most well-respected women I've ever met in my life, this precious little old lady, her daughter happens to be a very dear friend of mine, very successful business lady here in town. The precious older lady stopped by a donut shop to buy donuts and coffee, donuts for her staff. It was actually National Donut Day that day. And she stopped to get her staff some donuts. And they handed her the donuts, and she said, hey, I'll have a cup of coffee too. And so they said, hold on, we got some fresh boil. Let it finish boiling. So they pour this very hot cup of coffee. They put the lid on, but they don't actually secure the lid. And so when the employee went to hand it out the window, the lid fell off, and she literally poured this boiling hot cup of coffee into this little 80-something-year-old lady's lap, which was horrible. And she had to go to the hospital, and there was therapy for months that can cause, I don't know if you know about burns, but where they have to scrape the burns.
Oh, yeah, that's painful.
So I've actually seen that and been witness to a very similar fact pattern. And suddenly it's very different than just, oh, this lady spilled some coffee on herself and got a bunch of money. That's a misconception of what happens.
And also, I gotta say this also. I gotta say I'm guilty to it also. I got this gas station I go to often, like usually in the morning to get my Red Bulls and gas up my car. And then they got this little fridge that always leaks. But there is no sign or caution or nothing on there. But I know the guy personally, though. His name is Hassan. Like, we talk all the time, go back and forth. But I always think to myself, if I slip on purpose, am I going to win millions?
That's not quite. Now, and just so you get it, like take that fact pattern. The law with regard to premises liability is that so if something happens like that, you have to show that, one, an unreasonably dangerous condition existed, i.e., they letting this thing leak out, okay? Two, that they either knew or should have known of it, okay? That's actually pretty hard to prove because usually they're never going to admit they knew.
But the thing is, like I said, I've been going over there for 2 years, give or take. I stop there every morning.
Oh, he knows at this point. He's well aware.
Everybody knows. Everybody just goes there. You always see that puddle of water, so I jump over it every single time.
Right. And then what happens is one day, he, who never been there before, walks in to go get him a Snickers candy bar or whatever, and down he goes. And if he just goes down and it hurts his thumb, it's not worth $1 million. But what if when he goes down, smacks his head and has a brain injury? Suddenly, it's a very different thing. And so that's why it's so important that, look, I own a business. I make sure y'all keep these floors clean. Don't put stuff out that people are going to trip over. One, it's my Christian duty to make sure I'm not hurting people. Yeah. And two, I don't have to pay a bunch of money, so my staff better keep that place clean. So that's sort of one of the misconceptions is what does it mean? The value, the amount that it's worth, is related to the injury that occurred and how bad it is. And sometimes I tell people all the time, they come in and they got hit by a big truck, but they're not real hurt. And I say, well, I got good news and bad news. The bad news is I'm not getting you a bunch of money. The good news is you're not real hurt. And so, you know, you don't want to be the guy who the big 18-wheeler ran over and you can't even talk to me because you're on life support and your wife is in there hiring me. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's a difference to it. That's
very different.
Because the misconception behind it is kind of like if you ever get into anything where you're suing because of injury, people always assume like, oh, he making millions. And I'm like,
not how insurance companies aren't, and they shouldn't. Insurance companies shouldn't be like, oh, hey, he got a little injury. Let's give him lots of money. That's not fair, and that's not right. Insurance companies shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah, I mean, remember my first accident. Thinking I'm from Haiti, so we don't have things like that.
Right.
So I remember my first accident. They called me, and then they say, "Hey, man, you know." Later on, they said, "We're giving you $500."
Right.
I was like, "Oh,
well, good.
shit, I got money from this."
Right.
So, but I didn't know at the time, you know, being ignorant, from Haiti, so I didn't know about it. But I felt like at the time, knowing now, they lowball me. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, of course.
They, to me, it was just like they didn't have to call me at all. I wouldn't even know, you know, that you have to receive money because the other people, you know, hit my car and everything.
Right.
But I was so happy to get $500. So like the next accident, so I know now. So next time when they call me, because the person that call you, they started with the lowest number.
Right.
So and then when she started, she said, I think she said 2,000, and I said, no, I need 4,000. She said, okay. I said, oh, can I change the number? She said,
well, and you got to remember that you know sometimes a little wreck happens, you don't get real hurt, you just get banged up a little bit. They give you some money, you're happy with it. The problem is if they go, well, here, take $2,000, and you take it, and then 3 weeks later you're like, man, my neck is still hurting. I thought this was going to go away. You go to the doctor and they go, oh, we got to do a surgery on your neck, and you're like, whoa, that's $100,000. And you want to get the insurance company to pay for it? No. You already took the money and signed the release. Too late.
Oh, I didn't even know.
I knew that.
That's why you got to. And that's why I tell everybody, go talk to a lawyer. Go sit down with a lawyer. It's free to just chat with them and go see what your rights are, and make sure before you sign any documents or take any money, make sure the injury's done and over with.
But is every accident? Oh, even though you don't feel nothing, like you said, you didn't feel nothing at the time. And you feel like, okay, that's fine. And then later on, you feel like you got injured. So what would somebody need to do the first time you get an accident, small or big? What was the first move you need to do?
The first thing you should do, one, of course, if you're driving down the road, you stop at a stop sign and somebody rear ends you. Let's just use that fact pattern. Obviously, you should trade information with them. You should call the police, let them come out and do a report. And then the smart thing to do is usually the way your body works is you get in a wreck, your adrenaline's pumping, and you don't really feel what's hurting until the next day or two. And then you wake up a couple of days later and you're like, golly, my hip hurts or my neck hurts or my back hurts or whatever it is. Go to the doctor and get checked out. There's no rush to resolve it. Go and see. And look, maybe a few weeks go by and you're fine. That's great. Lucky you. They pay you a little money for the pain and on down the road. But it may be something big. You should go talk to your doctor. You should go see a lawyer who does that kind of law. I'm going to tell you right now, don't go see the divorce lawyer or the bankruptcy lawyer if you have an injury. Go see somebody who does that. It's kind of like if your ear hurts, you don't go see the finger doctor, okay? And so go see a lawyer that deals with that kind of thing. Get some advice before you sign anything. And the first thing you should do is, one, go get checked out by the healthcare professional and talk to a lawyer.
Is that a thing like they say? I heard. I don't know. I never read it. I never Googled it. But since you're in that domain, let me ask you this. Is that when you get in a car accident, I hear people say, if you piss on yourself or number 2 on yourself, you got a lot of money. Is that true?
I've never heard that.
I've heard that. No, I've heard that all the time. I've heard that all the time. It's like a saying. It's kind of like if you pee or use a number 2 on yourself, it's considered like public embarrassment or something in a sense.
Is that a thing?
And then that means that's like if you get in a wreck and then you do that on yourself and they call it public, like that's something I hear all the time. Like I said, I'm no judge, no lawyer, I don't know, but that's something I hear all the time.
That sounds like one of them urban myths.
It is. I'm glad you're here to clarify this. Well, if
that's all I accomplish here today, that we've got accomplished.
Hey, I feel like because I've heard that from so many people.
So many.
To where it's kind of like it's a thing. If somebody hits you, pee or poo in yourself, if the ambulance can come and verify that you did that, it's public embarrassment.
Man,
that's probably a couple $100,000 more.
I have never heard that. I'm sorry.
Hey, have you heard that, Tiffany? See? I'm not the only person
Well,
that just...
I must be non-hip on that kind of stuff, but I've been doing this almost 30 years.
I know.
I'm sure you would have known about that.
And I have, in 30 years, almost 30 years of practicing personal injury law, I think I've only had one time where someone gotten a horrible injury and their bowels released on them. And that was like a super major wreck, and their whole... that only one time out of representing thousands of people.
But was it something you point out to the court as my client did this and this and that, you should get more or whatever?
Well, it's just one more element of saying what happened to somebody.
Yes.
But I'm telling you, out of thousands of clients over almost 30 years, I've only seen that happen.
But I think when your adrenaline is so high, it'd be really hard for you to do at the time, unless if it really happened on accident. I don't think that's something like, even though when you got a wheelie car accident, somebody hits you, I don't think that's the first thing that's going through your mind. Oh shit, let me pee right quick.
No, that's just crazy.
But the thing is, I'm glad you're here to clear this out, because I swear I probably heard this for at least 50 people, if not more. And it's kind of like an urban myth. And then that's always the thing.
Right.
If you get in a wreck, make sure you pee or put in yourself. That's like a few $100,000 more. If everybody says that,
I think that's an urban myth, man.
Well, I'm glad you got to say that. But as a judge, let's just switch gear from being a lawyer to a judge. Like, what is the most, I don't know, ignorant thing that people bring to the court? Like, like, let's just say, for example, somebody trying to use ignorance as an excuse, kind of like, I didn't know.
I'll tell you, and this might be a little sort of off of what you're asking, but it happens so. I'm the Lake Charles. I'm one of the Lake Charles City Court judges. Me and Judge Bice, and we hear, everything from DWI cases, drug cases, traffic tickets, personal injury cases, contract disputes, landlord tenants evictions, all those sort of things, and I'll tell you, one of the most. I'm not trying to be ugly, but I think you used the right word. One of the most ignorant things people do is to come to court where you have your freedoms at risk, your money's at risk. To come to court, I don't expect people to come in a nice $2,000 suit and dressed up like a movie star. But whatever your financial situation is, you should come in trying to look like that day matters to you.
I agree.
You should not come in looking like a bum. You should, even if you're someone who doesn't have a bunch of money and a bunch of nice clothes, you should, try to make yourself look presentable. Be respectful. I had a guy in court this past week, and our bailiffs and our security are usually very, very good at Lake Charles City Court about if someone's not dressed appropriately, stopping them in the lobby and saying, you need to go change or you need to address your situation. But a guy came in this past week, and it was, I can't even remember what the charge was. It wasn't a real serious matter. And he had nice clean pants, nice clean shirt, nice clean shoes. This guy wasn't a rich fella by any stretch of the imaginations. I didn't expect him to come in. You guys work out at one of the plants. It's fine by me if a guy comes in with his Nomex because he's coming straight from court, from work, or he's going to work. Yeah. I get that. But this guy, when he walked up to the podium, I realized he had a Tupac shirt on. Well, no problem. I'm all about California Dreaming. I grew up listening to Tupac, all right? But it was Tupac holding both his hands up shooting a bird, okay? That's not what you wear to court. Now, usually that guy never would have made it past security, but officers were probably talking to someone or handling things. And the guy, he looked like he had nice pants, and the T-shirt was like a nice pressed black T-shirt with Tupac's face on it. And people wear stuff like, I don't mind, but they can't be flipping off the court. And that's just, and when I pointed it out to him, and I truly believe him, he was so surprised and so embarrassed. He said, Judge, I just reached in the drawer and I grabbed a clean shirt. I put it on to come. I didn't even realize what it was. And so, made him go outside, turn his shirt inside out so it wouldn't be Tupac flipping off the courtroom. But a lot of times it's people wearing things. I mean, you only get one chance to make a first impression, okay? And so when you come in, me as the judge, this is the first time generally I'm seeing you, probably the last time. Hopefully you go and get your stuff straight, and if I see you again, it's because I see you at the store or something. But they'll come in with, vulgar things on the shirt that we have to tell them to change, and not to pick on the ladies out there, but sometimes clothes that this is not the club. I'm not supposed to see all of your business. You shouldn't have on a dress that's cut up to your what. Yeah. You shouldn't have some really low-cut shirt showing all your stuff to everybody. That's really, and I think maybe it's just ignorance. They don't know. And that, remind people what ignorant means. Ignorant means lack of knowing.
Lack of knowledge.
Lack of knowledge. And if there's one of the things I really want to get people to understand, not just for my courtroom, but for any courtroom or a job interview, or when you're trying to get that school to let you in or whatever, that first impression
matters.
It just matters. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. And that's the biggest thing I see at court that really, I got to make people try to adjust and stop and change, because everybody who looks at you, they're judging you. We're humans. Even judges are humans. And when people come in looking like they don't care, you think they don't care.
I got you.
My question would be, as a judge in the Lake Charles City Court, so why, being a judge, why you feel like your work impacting the community?
I enjoy being a judge because I'm getting to help people resolve problems, okay? In fact, and I think I do a pretty good job at it. In fact, Mondays and Tuesdays are what we call criminal court, so that's when there's criminal charges. Wednesdays and Fridays are civil matters, and then every other Friday is what we call district attorney criminal day. And my bailiffs pick on me. One of them told me today, he said, I've never seen a judge that puts somebody in jail or fines them money and the defendant thanks them. And that is how I think I'm making the biggest impact, because people don't remember what you said to them. They don't remember what you did to them. They remember how you made them feel.
That's true.
And that's what I wish more judges, it's why I ran for judge. I watched a judge one day be very ugly to people that were coming through the courtroom. And you're already a judge. You already got that robe on. You got armed security guards making everybody do what you say. No sense in being ugly to them.
Yeah.
Why not be nice? Why not be kind? Why not try to make it a teaching moment? And sometimes you got to punish them. You got to put them in jail. You got to do things to them. But hopefully you're making an impact that gets them to adjust how they act so they have a better future for them, their job, their family, et cetera. And that's what I hope I'm truly making an impact in doing, is making people see the system as helping them. I say it in court all the time. I say, we're here to serve you, not govern you as a judge. Governing you, that's the state legislature. That's the city council. And so I hope I'm doing that.
I'm glad you said that, because not too long ago they had a story on the news where a judge put a 16-year-old girl into jail because she was sleeping in the court.
Right.
And I think that was exaggerated. That was like, man, you didn't even ask the question. You just went straight to action. And that's
right.
Saying that's kind of,
I saw that, and the first thing I thought of was I'd have had the guards wake her up, and I'd have probably said, hey, take her to the little back conference room. And away from everybody else, I'd have wanted to know, are you having a hard time at home? What's going on in your life? Now, look, if she just said, F you, judge, I don't care. Whoa, we're going to do something about it. We're going to do something. We're going to teach her a lesson. But it might be that poor kid hadn't had a meal in a day or two. And maybe she's having to work a job. But there's all kind of things you need to know before you, quote, unquote, drop the hammer on someone.
And I think that's the mistake he made. And then saying, you should have been sleeping in your bed and shouldn't even have a place to stay.
Yeah. And that
was kind of make you look terrible as a judge, because when somebody see a judge, because you can make decision to put somebody to impact my life in good or bad. So I don't want to go to a judge and that's gonna do, I don't even know where I stand with you. Like, oh my God, if you can do this to a 16-year-old kid, what you gonna do to me? You know,
Right.
you never want to be in a situation like that.
Right. No, you're completely right.
I gotta ask you a question though. Like,
Sure.
Can you recall a case that you've had to in your career, perhaps it's as a judge or a lawyer, that had like a significant impact on your personal life?
I tell this to everyone, and I'm a titty baby, man. I'm an emotional guy. I get teared up, and so I'll probably do it talking about this case. I'm sorry, but I've been fortunate. God has blessed us where we've had in my injury practice, we've had good cases and got to make good money. But this is probably 15 years ago. I had a case. It was a 3-year-old and 4-year-old little girls. It was up in North Lake Charles at a I think it was a rent house, because the people who lived there didn't own it. There was a landlord that owned it, and there was a birthday party, and these girls their cousin had a birthday, and so a bunch of kids stayed over for the night and for the birthday party. And one of the little boys got a hold of some matches and started a fire. And it burned the place down, and this 3-year-old and 4-year-old little girls died in the fire. The moms came and hired me to do something about it, to try to make recovery. And as it turns out, the landlord only had, I think it was $25,000 worth of insurance. That was it. There was no other money to go get. The guy didn't have a bunch of money. Really wasn't his fault, because the little kid played with matches, and the people who were renting the house, they're renting the house because they didn't have a bunch of money to be able to own a house. And so in the end, the most money I could get for these 2 beautiful little girls dying was $25,000. And I had the horrible experience of bringing those mothers in and explaining to them that this is all there was. And I said, I don't want a fee. I just want to get this money and give it to y'all. It was just horrible. And that happens a lot where there's not enough money to address the problem that has occurred. And a lot of times people are mad at me because I couldn't get them more money when there's just was no money to get. And I felt horrible about it. And after getting that money and getting it to them, doing the best we could, a week or so goes by, and they showed up at my office with a plaque with a picture of these 2 little girls on that plaque, and a nice little inscription like saying a prayer for me and thanking me for doing the best I could do for them. And I kept that plaque on my desk for about 10, 12 years, I guess it was, so that whenever I thought I had a problem, I'd look at them little girls and I'd say, my problems ain't that bad. And then when Hurricane Laura hit and destroyed my office, that plaque was destroyed and disappeared in the storm. And that case has had more impact on me than any of the big cases where I've made good money or had some great triumph and got to be on the news or whatever, talking about how great of a lawyer I was or anything like that. That's the one case that to this day sticks with me, and I can't escape it. That's the thing that had the biggest impact on me.
Wow.
That was crazy. That's
Wow. That it really
It was a rough case, man.
Thinking about, the fact that you didn't even give him the big money, and they still appreciate it to that level.
Talk about humble you.
Yes.
I mean, that was to this day, I just that case affects me.
Wow.
But like when somebody go to court, and then what is the let me rephrase that question. Let's you have like the most like criminal cases that you as a judge,
Right.
and that you see that you think that was insane.
That was like disgusting in a sense. Because sometimes I read the news, I see them, and I'm like, okay, there's somebody's mind that can go that far.
And I'm lucky because as a city court judge, we only deal with misdemeanors.
Okay.
Which no one's going to jail for more than a year, and the fine's not going to be more than $1,000. And so I don't have to see those horrible rape cases or those horrible horrible abuse cases. I don't have to see those. Instead, I get to see what's really is like sometimes it's just so crazy and silly and stupid that you just laugh and laugh. I mean, you get, I got a guy, this one sticks in my mind. I was I guess this was last year, who he'd gotten in some trouble, got sentenced for, I was a DWI or something. And so we put him on probation, and they have to go do drug tests. And he went to the drug testing place. And you got to remember, when I sentence you to probation and I sent you to go take a drug test or go to a counselor, well, that person's me. You're supposed to treat them with the same respect you treat me in the courtroom. And that guy went in the counseling place, the drug place, and called them all MFers and told the little lady at the drug testing place to come on into the bathroom when he was doing his pee test and let her see what he's got. I mean, and you just can't believe someone's crazy enough to say that stuff, And then when he comes in the courtroom and I asked him, I said, "Sir, did you really say all this stuff?" And he just looked me straight in the eye and said, "Yes, I did. F him." So I put him in jail. I gave him a lesson about saying MFer, but man, you just can't believe someone would do that stuff.
I got an interesting story to say. Just to give context to that story, I was coming from Oklahoma, and I was driving back. I don't know if you know this little back road in Dorito to where the speed limit can go on you from 70 to 30.
171 and it drops.
Yeah, if you don't see the sign, you screwed. And I remember I was doing like 75 or 80. I think I was doing 80. But I remember the speed limit was 70. So I gave myself the little 10 over. And that's also another thing. A lot of people believe if the speed limit is 40, you got 50.
I think you got 45, right?
That's at the police officer's discretion. 40 means 40, dog.
Yeah,
if the cop just don't want to pull you over because he's like, they're not going quite fast enough, that's his discretion. But it don't mean you automatically get an extra 10 miles an hour.
That's what I thought. Like I said, I was doing 80, and the speed limit dropped from 80 to 30. But I didn't see the sign, and I got pulled over. The cop was really nice about everything. Asked me, "Hey, where you going?" I'm like, "I'm going home," and he gave me a ticket like for doing 80 and 30.
Right.
And I remember, because usually I don't get a lot of tickets, but once I get them, I know I did them. I'm not even going to waste time disputing them. Like, send me the bill, I paid it, whatever.
Right.
And I went for that one, they wanted me to go to court. They didn't even give me a bill.
If you're going too fast, they actually make you show up in court.
That's exactly what happened to me. And I remember I got there, and I was nuts. Judge asked me what happened, give him the whole story, and he said, your bill's going to be about $800 and something. And I was like, he said, "We can do a weekend in jail." And I seriously considered it.
You started thinking about it?
I seriously considered it. And I'm like, 2 days? I ain't got nothing going on the next 2 days.
I have people tell me that. I'll find them, and they'll say, "Judge, can I just do those days?" Because I'll say, this, or, if you don't take care of your business, 1 day, 2 days, whatever, they're like, "Hey, Judge, I'll take the day or two." And
But
I'm
I thought about it. What changed my mind is I'm like, okay, that's going to create a record. I do not want that on my record.
You do not want to have to admit you went to jail. That's right.
I'm like, I don't want that on my record. And I just said, okay, I'll pay it. And I remember they gave me like 6 months or however long it was. And I had plenty of time to pay it. And I paid it. But honestly, in that moment, I'm like, man, 2 days? And I said, $800?
That's funny.
But sometimes I got police officers, sometimes when they stop you and they do, and let's say if they lied about it. So when they go to court with you, is there any way you can win this case? Is there something, enough evidence you can bring to turn that around?
It depends on the facts. I mean, we had a guy a couple of weeks ago in my court who insisted on having a trial, so they had to set him for a trial date, and then the officer didn't show up to testify, so they had to dismiss the case. A cop could be wrong, or a witness could be wrong, and so you could win that. Generally, that cop he done put that radar gun on you, and he done got you speed. I mean, you're probably going to have a very hard time, beating that. But like I tell everybody in my courtroom on arraignment days, where they come in with their first appearance in court, I tell them, I said, look, today you can plead guilty, not guilty, or no contest, and I want you to understand that you have a constitutional right to a trial. And I'm going to make that prosecutor prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you're guilty of whatever they're saying you did. And so, I don't want people to think just because, they got a charge that it's automatic that they're guilty. That's not what our wonderful state and U.S. Constitution say. You got a right to the trial. You just got to remember your facts might be really bad. I mean,
but sometimes I know in a sense, as black people, it's really, we never it's a misconception about the law. The law is usually not on your side and stuff like that. But come from Haiti, I don't know racism till I really got here. But I feel like for the first time ever, I feel like that was, to me, even though I'm trying not to make it racism, but I felt like it was unnecessary, right? So I got stopped by 3 cops.
Okay.
So when I got stopped, so there was 2 female cops, but and a male cop. So one of them come talk to me and ask me my papers, and I hand it. And I was talking with the other one. So before, I said, hey, I got guns in the car.
Right.
And he was like, why you never say you had guns in the car? I'm like, man, they asked me for my stuff. I was talking to her. So it took me a minute, It's just like, and I felt offended when he said, oh, let me run it to see if it wasn't stolen. I felt like...
Yeah, especially if I mentioned it. I'm going to brought it up. Yeah.
I'll tell you this. I was a lawyer, been practicing about 5 or 10 years, and I had this fancy new little car, and I was going too fast, and a cop pulled me over, and I did the same thing you did when he walked up the window. I gave him my information. I said, I want you to know I have a weapon in the car, because it was actually, you could see it over there, so I didn't want him to think I was going for a gun or something. And he said, he knew I was a lawyer because he knew who I was. He still ran that gun to see if it was stolen.
Yeah, I mean,
is that like custom practice, something they have to do?
I don't know exactly what their protocol is, but I know that literally ran the gun.
If I tell you, I don't think I would be having a stolen gun and automatically told you I got a gun in the car.
I feel like it depends on the cop. It really depends on the cop. It depends on the cop. Because honestly, I told dudes that I have a gun in my car before, and they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
and then kept it going.
But I've had that too. But dead serious. I mean, here I was in this fancy little Porsche with my suit on, and I'm a lawyer in the town where the guy knew who I was, and he still ran the gun. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, so. I felt at the time, and he was talking really mean to me, and I was saying, and I said, can I have? And he didn't even want to give me he didn't even give me his card or something. I really felt some type of way about it because I said, hey man, I was talking with the lady. I said, can I talk with him? He said, yeah, you can tell him. I said, man, you stopped me. I'll talk to you nice. I think it'd be nice if you talk nice to me too. You don't have to be 100%. You don't have to be mean to anybody. I don't know what your problem is, but you owe me respect just like I owe you respect. And he said, if you got any problem, take it to my superior. I'm like,
well, and I'll tell you. Think of it this way: most cops are pretty professional, and they want to get the stop done, get the ticket done, and get the heck away from the side of the road. Okay. That's just a safety matter for the officer. Think about it. You just want to get done. But, I mean, look, human beings, out of every 10, you're going to have one that's a jerk, right?
yes.
I don't know why people think that cops are going to somehow not have the same sort of percentage. You're going to have some cops that are jerks and who don't treat people nice and who don't have good attitudes. That's going to happen. And I encourage everybody, if something like that happens, I know the local chief, I know the local sheriff. They don't want their officers and deputies acting like that. I promise you. And if someone's rude or ugly, not even doing anything illegal, they're just ugly. I think you should let the station know that. I really do. It's just like one of my businesses. If one of my staff is ugly to you, that's messing with my money. Okay? I want to know about that. And I can guarantee you that Chief of Police in Lake Charles and Sheriff Stitch Guillory, they're going to want to know if their people are being rude to folks. Definitely.
Yeah, I think like that to me. So when you see a police officer, you expect
professionalism.
Yeah,
yes.
I expect, let's say if I was being mean to you, yeah, you got every right to be mean right back to me. But if I do everything you tell me to do, and I was being upfront with everything, I have, there is no reason whatsoever for you
100%.
to act it that way,
But think of it this way. You go to Home Depot. You got to get you some stuff to work on your house. And the first 3 employees you talk to are great, very helpful. But that last sucker who's checking you out is so rude to you and so ugly, and you're just thinking, I don't want to buy nothing in this place. You see what I mean? Like there's just jerks everywhere, man. And look, police forces aren't going to be any. We don't want them to be that way because we give them guns and badges and the right to stop people. But you're going to have some cops that just ain't nice people, man.
And also as a lawyer, I'm sure you can attest to this. And I remember I was watching this video to a guy who got pulled over, and he complied, gave ID and everything, but he did not answer any question. Like they say, hey, are you going? Do you have a drink tonight? Where are you going? Why are you going this fast? He did not say anything. And he says, I got my right to not say anything to you. I
doesn't
gave you
have to.
everything. And he said, I gave you everything. And then I could see within the video how things started going south because you could tell like the cop felt like the guy was questioning the authority.
Of course.
And he started doing the most like, get out the car. I'm going to search your car. Do you have any drugs, anything like that? But you could tell he was doing that, like all that because he felt like the guy was questioning his authority. And then when the guy's saying, I want to search your car, he says, no, you do not have my consent to search my car.
Right.
And he's like, well, you're going to have to wait here for about 2 hours till a canine come through. You could tell, like within you as a judge, what's your opinion towards that matter when somebody knows they're right and then yet they have to deal with a cop?
Look, here's the deal. I don't just think of myself as a lawyer or a judge. I think of myself as an upholder of the Constitution. The Constitution says you have a right to remain silent. The Constitution says you don't have to speak to them at all, okay? Now, there might be consequences for that on the ground in that the cop goes, oh, yeah, he's going to be a jerk to me. I'm going to be a jerk to him, and he's going to make you stand there and wait while the dog comes, and he's going to do different things. But, I mean, my opinion, both as a lawyer or a judge and as a citizen of this great state and country, is that you have a right to do what the Constitution says you have to do, and that means you have a right to remain silent. In fact, most people probably should exercise that right. They tend to talk too much and get themselves in trouble. There's a hilarious comedian named Ron White who talks about when he got arrested, and he said he was drunk in a bar. And he said, I had the right to remain silent. I just didn't have the ability to remain silent.
And I'm sure you saw that video that went viral a few years ago. Like, that's like a while back. This guy, they gave him a breathalyzer. He was so drunk, he just started drinking it.
Yeah, you hear those funny stories.
Oh, man, that is crazy.
But what is like as somebody like when you as a judge they come in there and then just literally snitch on themselves? You never have a
That said too much.
They do it all the time. I stop people from talking a lot. Like sometimes the prosecutor will have worked out a deal, and so they're gonna say they got 4 citations, and the prosecutor is saying how, look, if they plead to this one, the prosecutor's going to dismiss the other 3, and the person, so they're getting a really good deal. They just save themselves, like instead of the fine being this much, it's now done drop down to this much, et cetera. But they still feel the need to talk about it. and I'll tell them, I say, look, you have a right to tell me all about it if you want to, but right now you're really ahead in this game, and you might want to just not say a word. So I'm not going to stop you from talking. As long as they're polite, they're following the quorum of the courtroom, I'm going to let them get it off their shoulders, get it off their chest. But I'm like, sometimes it's just best to hush up.
And talking about that, because my girlfriend is a big fan of Judge Judy. She watches it all day. And I remember I saw this episode of a guy who got accused of stealing a wallet. And at first he was like, I didn't steal the wallet. I wasn't even in the room or whatever. Like he was pleading his case. And then the lady said, I lost that wallet. The wallet had like this amount of money. He says, no, that thing only had 200 in it.
I'll tell you, along that line, before I became a judge, I practiced criminal law as well as personal injury law. And I had a case, it was in Jeff Davis Parish, and I had a young fella, he was probably 20 years old or something, and he was accused of being a crack dealer. And and the way he got caught was he had the baggy pants on, and when he ran from the cops, because he had the baggy pants, they fell down around his ankles and tripped him, and it was easy for the cops to catch him. So anyhow, I'm meeting with him at the courthouse on arraignment day, and I've got a deal worked out, and he's not going to do any time, and I did a great job. I got him all set up. He's going to walk out that day, and they said he had 33 crack rocks.
damn.
And he said, I'm not taking a deal because they're lying.
Bad more.
He said, I had 38 crack rocks. I swear he said that. And I'm just looking at him, and I'm like, some people, you just can't help it.
I gotta pee.
He had 38, not 33.
The man felt offended.
I guess his sense of, he was
I
offended.
gotta, I'm sorry. This man, like, I was holding it, but when I
Hey, man, hey, the man felt disrespected, man.
offended, they lied with a good name.
I thought he was going to tell me he didn't have any, you know?
Hey, man, the man.
Sure.
Okay, so do you feel like plea deals
Uh-huh.
are bullshit?
No. Plea deals are generally the only way the system's going to work, for one thing. Because if they tried every single case, you shut down the whole system.
Right, I agree with that.
But,
What if the person
so,
didn't do it?
oh, no, I've seen that. Look, when I was practicing law, criminal law, I saw where people who, they didn't do this thing, but they had some other stuff they had done that basically they pled to the thing they didn't do so they could get away from the other things. Or sometimes the potential for punishment is so bad, they're scared and they want to do a plea. And as a lawyer, that movie, Cole, what was that movie with Matthew, Lincoln Lawyer?
Yes,
Not
I
the
love
series,
Lincoln Law.
Not the series, but the movie with
The
Matthew
movie?
McConaughey.
Yeah.
That's what his big struggle was. He had a guy had pled guilty and was serving life who didn't do it, but the exposure that if he got convicted was so bad. No, he was serving 25 years instead of life. The exposure potential was so bad the guy pled even though he didn't do it, and that's a reality in America. That happens sometimes, and you hate that.
Yeah.
Just as a decent human, you should hate that.
Yeah.
You know.
I wanted to. I got this. I wanted to ask you on the podcast though, but they got this video going around. They got the snitch, and how this video got out like he snitched. I mean, this about it's a gang stuff, and this video is in Lake Charles. Like they caught it, but he was singing. I mean, he got the award for Snitch of the Year. I mean, he was singing everything.
Man, if you're facing 20, 30 years in prison, you might tell on
But
somebody.
those videos shouldn't come out though, right?
No.
Or is that legal? It's
Oh, that
illegal.
video you showed me earlier?
I just
Yeah.
don't know enough about that to know.
Have you seen the video, at least? I think it's... Are we talking about the same thing?
Yeah, we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah, it's a video you showed me earlier. This guy was just sitting in jail, ratting everybody out. Like, I'm talking about from his mother to his dad.
Oh, man.
and his-
So you
when
got to
they-
wonder if any of it's true because
And
it's just like
things-
he's making up stuff.
No, because he was
He
like,
looked so honest. Like, when they asked him something he didn't know, he says, I don't know that. Let me back out there. I'll find out. And I'm like...
he was saying, when I said everything, he got the award of Snitch of the Year. He was like, oh, they got Tesla, they got this guy name. The guy said, what's the will name? Man, I don't know his will name, but I'll find out. I'm like, bro.
Oh Lord!
But how did that video get out, though? That's the main
I
question.
don't know. I haven't seen this.
But that's
one.
not
you
supposed to
should
be
see
legal.
it.
I
That's
haven't
not.
seen.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah, I'll show you.
Have a phone in jail.
No, like,
No,
he was like, he was wearing the
you
whole
can see
orange
the-
outfit. There's
you
like
can
a
see the
camera in the room.
up in the camera in the room.
No, in the corner
So he
of
was
the
in
room.
interrogation.
Yeah, it's in
and being
interrogation.
interrogated, and he was like going.
He's in interrogation.
That's what I'm saying. Is it just him or is he?
Just him and the person interrogating him. I don't know
Yeah,
if it's a cop
that's
or
about
whomever.
a murder. They was thinking about a murder, but
Oh,
he was
I just don't know. I haven't
Yeah,
seen
but
that.
he's just
so-
like,
Oh
I
my
feel like- I
God,
think
that
that was-
guy! I don't think he's gonna be safe out there.
He was
Like,
singing.
Oh, that guy
Oh.
was singing.
I
Not
mean-
even like a bird, like a catter. It's like a cat. That dude was going all out. Like, and I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Oh, yeah,
So,
he-
but first of all, how did that get out?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it may I don't know. I just don't know.
okay. So
Okay, let's-
let's go back to matter at hand.
Sure.
So being in Lake Charles, what you think the most pressing legal in the system we got going on right now?
Wait, say that again. Let me make sure.
And what's the most legal issue facing Lake Charles right now? And
Oh, well, there's a lot, and you got to decide. You know, are we talking about criminal legal issues, civil legal issues? I'll tell you as a city court judge, what I see as a huge legal issue in this town that we need to figure out is housing. Okay, because I get stuck doing a lot of the evictions hearings in town, and as a societal matter, affordable housing for people in Lake Charles is a serious legal issue. And we need to be figuring out how to address that as a community. I think we've got some great ideas. I think we're trying. I think this town's growing. We're going to see a lot of great things happening. But I see how difficult it is for people to be able to afford decent rent compared to what their job is paying them. And I think that's a major legal issue in Lake Charles.
Okay, so judge in Lake Charles, judge elected every 4 years, 5 years?
6.
6
Every
years?
6. Yes, sir.
So is a judge can stay for
Like how many terms?
how many times you can have?
There's no limit on terms. There's a limit on age.
Okay.
So once you turn, and it's only for this is a state law. This isn't a federal law. Federal judges they stay there until they die generally.
Yes.
Okay, you'll have a 90-year-old judge. Okay, whereas in the state of Louisiana, once you reach 70 years old, you're not allowed to run again.
Okay.
You age out is what they call it. And there's been some argument about whether that's a good decision or good law or bad law. But whatever, it's the law. So after you turn 70 years old, you're not allowed to run for judge again.
So let's say you was a judge, and then you don't get elected again. After the next 6 years, you can go try again.
Well, yes. Whenever the next election is, you can always run.
So who vote for those judges?
Well, it depends on which judgeship. Okay, so for a state judge, you have districts in Calcasieu Parish, and so you'll have the people in Division A vote for that judge. The people in Division B, it's different areas. Now, for me and Judge Bice and Marshall Keller, Nathan Keller, which, by the way, all three of us graduated from LaGrange, so go Gators. Your entire city court system is ran by LG dogs, okay? It's kind of interesting. But we are Ward 3, which basically is, I kind of jokingly say that's Lake Charles and another 100 streets. We're about half of the parish. And everyone that lives in Ward 3 votes whether or not we would be judges or the city marshal every 6 years.
Oh,
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, every time I think I went to court maybe 2 times.
not once. That story I gave you. That's the
I
only
mean,
time I've been to court.
I went to court.
Speedmeister over
Yeah,
there.
I went to court the first time. I didn't even know it was it was back then. There was a fight that happened, and I was just looking. I was just not in the fight. Next thing you know, I got stuff on my record. They say I got stopped by the cop one time, and they say, "Hey, man, you got,
A warrant didn't show
yeah."
up.
I'm like, man, I have no clue.
While we're talking about that, that's one of the things I caution people on as a judge, is that don't miss a court date, okay? Because if you miss a court date, let's just say it's a simple speeding ticket.
Yeah.
So you don't show up for court. Well, here's what happens. One, the court issues a warrant, a bench warrant, which means the next time you get stopped, they're not just writing you a ticket.
They're gonna
They
arrest you.
putting the jewelry on you and they taking you to jail. The other thing, which is just about as bad, is the DMV, the Office of Motor Vehicles, will suspend your license, which will affect your insurance, and then you get caught driving under suspension. I mean, it's just a mess. So I tell everybody, show up for court.
But like my case, but I didn't know. So if you don't, I really didn't
if you
know.
don't-
There's gotta be a
yeah,
way to make people aware.
The court's going to handle that. Like, people come in and go, Judge, I just didn't know. I talked to them. I figure, they telling the truth. We recall the warrant. We take care of them. We help them out. Okay. But if you know, there's this gentleman who I represented years ago who was a enterprising businessman in an illegal venture. Let's put it that way. He said about showing up for court. He said it's better to show up than lie about showing up.
Hey,
That's aggressive, boy. If that isn't some words of wisdom right there. But it's true. Show up, explain yourself. The judge is probably going to give you some grace and help you out. But always, if you know you got a court date, it's like I tell people, if you get a ticket, man, put that on your phone. Make a note for that calendar. Show up for your court date.
Man, you're right. But also, I feel like Because a lot of time you hear the stories about people who get pulled over and they were in the ID and they're like, you got a warrant. You're like, what? From where? Or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Do you feel like, because I know for the DMV, once my license gets suspended, because my license got suspended once. And then I remember I got like a letter to the mail right away for like an accident I wasn't even in. And they cleared it all out. But I feel like as far as for a warrant, there should be, I don't know if there is a way to let people know, hey, you got a warrant, or like, you know, just like a bill collector, at least send a few mail at the house.
Yeah.
Or something.
It's, well, you know, like for Lake Charles, for Ward 3 City Court, the marshal's office handles that generally, and they send out notices. But, I mean, it's not our job to tell you got a warrant. It's your job to show up for court. Now, if it turns out there's a mistake, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to recall that warrant. I'm going to set it aside. I'm going to waive any fee to be paid for it. We're going to address it. And we do that all the time. We get people who make a mistake or whatever. We help them out. But there's, I mean, the notice is the original ticket. You know, there is not a secondary warrant notice generally.
Because like he was kind of saying, I know this person, barely met him. I think we was at a ball, and I went to pick him up, and they said like, oh my God, I'm drunk or whatever. And I'm like, okay, I got it. Like I'm sober. Honestly, I had like a beer in me, but I was still sober.
Don't drink and drive at all.
Yeah, but I get that, but I was like clear-headed. And I'm like, I just got to be out. I'm going to drive you. And he's like, man, I can't afford to get pulled over. I'm like, don't worry, but I'm driving. What you stressing about? He said, man, I got a warrant.
Oh, my Lord.
Like, what?
Well, look, if you're ever watching TV and they'll show the thing where the cop pulled the guy over and the guy just takes off running, he probably got warrants.
But at the same time, sometimes I feel like people do that like so stupidly because you're going to make your case even 10 times worse.
Oh, yeah, no, it's all you're doing is adding gasoline to the fire.
But if you got a warrant, what you got to do? Like, when you got a warrant?
Like, well, let's say take Lake Charles City Court. If you find out you have a warrant, you can call or go to the courthouse, and you go to the courthouse generally, and you say, look, I'm here. I found out there's a warrant. And what they'll do is they have you sign some paperwork. They give you a new court date.
Okay.
And that's that. See, it's so simple to
It
deal
is
with
simple.
if you just deal with it. The problem is when you try to ignore it, not deal with it, it's going to catch up with you sooner or later. Look,
later.
an example I give in court all the time about getting a bench warrant is you don't show up for court, a bench warrant gets issued, and then you go on a hunting trip out in West Texas, way out in the middle of nowhere, and you roll through a stop sign, the cop pulls you over. Now you're going to be stuck in a little jail in nowhere, West Texas, waiting to get out. So handle your business so you don't have those kind of things happen to you.
You're right. Yeah, I mean, I didn't think it was that simple. I mean, it sounds
It's
like
very simple. Well, what people do is they think, oh, the big legal system, it's hard to deal with. Not so much on that. And I promise you one thing. In Lake Charles City Court, both our clerk's office, Marshal Keller's office, very much about trying to help people put things behind them and get on with their life. We're very, very helpful, very professional.
But I mean, a lot of things like people don't know about the legal system. So like, I mean, you thinking like it's so complicated, but is there another way? There's a way that can help people just understand the law better, like knowing about little things like that.
We try to do informational talks every once in a while. We try to have little workshops every once in a while. One of the things that once I got elected, I really kind of, and Marshall Keller got elected at the same time I did, was that we got with Judge Bice and we did an amnesty program, which was all these people who had warrants for speeding and stuff like that going back years, but they were just scared to come in. We did advertising, we did everything where you'd come in, we'd recall your warrants, get you a fine done without you, like try to get you resolved and let you get back on track. We really try to do that kind of stuff up there at Lake Charles City Court.
And I gotta ask you this also. I know you got your own law firm. So what's the difference between like whenever you're repping like you being a judge to you being a public servant and running your own law firm? What's the difference between the both?
Well, you know, when you're running a law firm, that's about making money. It's a business, okay? And hopefully you get to do some good and make some money. Whereas when you're a judge, you're not taking a side. You're not an advocate, which is what you are as a lawyer. You know, you come in, you hire me, and I go fight your case, and I'm trying to win for you. Whereas for a judge, it's very different. You're there to hear both sides, and you're there to try to do justice. You're there to try to find out what the truth is, and you're there to try to get things resolved in a fair way based on the facts and the law. You're not an advocate. You're not getting to hoorah for one side or the other. And look, that sometimes means that you have to follow the law and you rule against, like someone comes into court, boy, and you really like them. You think they're a great person. But the facts and the law aren't on their side, and you have to rule against them. And as a judge, you got to be ready to do that. And that's not particularly fun.
Yeah, I can.
What's the pettiest case? Pettiest.
The
funny
pettiest case?
you had to deal with as a
Man.
judge. I'm sure you got plenty of stories.
Boy, I got to tell you. Ah, God. I'm not going to
you
mention
got to
it.
pick from a bunch.
I got one on my mind. And the lawyers on both sides are friends of mine. The parties, I know who they are. Let's just say a lot of money and time and days in court were spent on an issue. I just can't give the facts because I know the appeal deadlines have ran and everything, but I never want to look like I'm picking one side or the other. But it was over something that I'm just got to tell you what, no more important than this glass of strawberry lemonade sparkling water, okay? Let me put it that way. And I just couldn't believe they spent that much time and money when like the next day I'm in court with people with real problems. You know what I mean? It's something. But anyway.
I can't imagine.
If I'll tell y'all off the record what it is, and y'all gonna die. Y'all gonna die laughing when I tell y'all that story.
But let me ask you this: like, perhaps as a judge, like me personally, I'm a law-abiding citizen, but at the same time, besides like speeding and stuff like that here and there, I broke the law. Do you feel like, as a judge, like somebody who's there to withhold the law, like you trying to hold yourself back from breaking, like let's just say, a few minor rules and laws?
That's a deep question.
As a lawyer, look, here's the deal. When you become a lawyer and you take the oath, I take that oath seriously, okay? That means you're supposed to act in an ethical, honest, candid way. You're supposed to obey the laws even more so than normal citizens do because you know the law more than citizens do. And as my mom used to say, to whom much is given, much is required. You know, the one who knows more knows to act right, okay? Yes. And as a judge, that becomes even heightened, okay? So, you know, as a judge, you shouldn't burn the trash inside the city limits when you know that's against the law. Okay, like even little petty things like that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not talking about just big crimes. I'm talking about you shouldn't blow through red lights in front of everybody. You shouldn't do things that you have to rule and punish people about. You should try to stay away from. Look, have I slipped up and drove faster than I'm supposed to? I'm sure I have, you know, but I try really hard not to, and I try to be more aware of even the little things once you become a judge, even more so than when you're a lawyer.
Oh, that has got to be a strict life. But do you pass down those understanding of the law throughout your family, close friend, and then, you know, whomever? You
try to. It's not that you try to. Heck, they bother you all the time because they know you're a lawyer and a judge. Hey, man, what's the law on this? Or so that's a constant thing. You're always, and with your kids, you're always trying to tell your kids, hey, you have to be more aware. You know, here's the law. Pay attention to it. Your dad's a judge now. Come on, don't be that person getting in trouble when because the cops can be like, your dad, you know better than to do this, and so you don't want them to think that they should be able to get away with more. You want them to think that the spotlight's on them even more, and they should try harder to act right.
And I got a question for you. As a lawyer, so you know somebody bring you a case. Let's say, for instance, I don't know, like a criminal case of census. You know they did it. Right. But then, I mean, they got a lot of money involved. And you go over there with a straight face and straight lies.
Well, you can't do that, okay? That's not, like, for example, there are people I know did it when I was practicing criminal law. And I worked hard with the prosecutor to get them a good deal. And I've even tried some cases where they did it, but I didn't let them get on the stand and lie, okay? Remember, the burden is not on the criminal lawyer and his client to prove he didn't do it. The burden is on the state to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he did it. Okay? And there's old saying, you know, just because you were acquitted doesn't mean you weren't guilty. All right? It just means the state didn't prove their case.
Yeah.
All right. So as a lawyer, it's completely okay to represent somebody you know did it. That's your job as a lawyer sometimes. But you cannot lie about it or commit a fraud on the court about it. That's
So-
where you can't do that.
Because I feel like this one touch within the gray area, like in a sense. Like I said, I've only got movie reference to go
Yeah.
by. So therefore, I've seen certain scenes like to where it's kind of like the guy says to where the lawyer be like, "Hey, don't lie to me. I'm your lawyer. I'm here to protect you. Tell me everything I need to know so I can protect you better or whatever."
Right.
And then of course the guy open up and tell him the full story, and he'd be like, "Okay, we're not saying that part. We're not saying that part. Instead of saying this, we're saying that." Like, is that like something you feel like lawyers do?
You can't do that. You cannot lie to the court. You cannot commit a fraud on the court. And any lawyer that does that shouldn't be a lawyer.
Because I only got movie reference to go by.
Movies, man, that's the movies. That ain't real life.
But how you
so-
deal with something like this when you know the guy did it? So the other side trying to say he did it, but he wants you to defend him, not say like, in a sense, like he didn't do it, or maybe trying to get him a better deal. How you deal with something like this? No, you know all the facts, but the other side does not have.
How do you withhold those facts within
the lack
your...
the
Well,
lack
it-
of information.
It depends. See, you got to remember though, in a criminal case, it's not the criminal defendant's job to give the state information. It's the state's job to try to develop information on their own. So as long as the criminal defense lawyer isn't lying to the court, it's okay for his client and him not to make his client tell everything. In fact, there's a constitutional right to not tell everything. Okay? I know that's weird.
It is weird. It is weird. I feel like there's like a sense of disgenuineness about it in a sense.
Oh, the system's disingenuous. Don't ever think. It's kind of like when they say Lady Justice is blind. Lady Justice don't even know where that court is sometimes, okay? Let's be honest about how things work out. So that's the...
But as a lawyer, a criminal lawyer, is that to yourself, as a Christian man, like you said, if there's a case, if somebody would bring it to you, be like, I'm not doing it. You never
I've
feel
walked away from cases before.
like, you feel like was like
Too much.
Too
I've
much.
walked away from good money that was offered to represent people in criminal matters. Look, as a practical matter, I never did as a criminal lawyer. I think I did maybe 2 or 3 what I'd call sexual abuse cases. I got kids. I just didn't want to be involved in that. Didn't want to do it. I've only done very, very few of those. In fact, as a injury lawyer, I've sued people for sexually abusing kids and people and stuff. And I could have made more money if I'd agreed to take those cases. But sometimes it's your own personal thing, and that's what it was for me. I walked away from. I'm not saying lawyers who do that are wrong. I think they're an integral part of the system, and I'm glad they're there to keep the state honest. But it's just not something I wanted to do.
And also, as a judge / lawyer, and do you feel like in a sense that should be like a conflict of interest in a sense? Because it's kind of like you're playing both sides of the game. You're a lawyer, you know how the game goes, you know how things go, and then yet as a judge, you can see through the manipulation to it like another lawyer's eyes.
No, the way the Supreme Court does it, for a city court judge, you're what's called a part-time judge. And so the Supreme Court says that I'm still allowed to have a practice, but I cannot practice in city court. That wouldn't be fair. That would be a conflict of interest.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about.
Yeah, and so you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed, as a judge, you're not allowed to have any of your business in front of the court. Let's just not say it's anything to do with practicing law. Let's just say it's you and I are in an argument about whose shoes those are, and I want to sue you just as a person against another person. I obviously can't hear that case in city court because I'm one of the people fighting over the shoes. That would be a conflict of interest, and that's just the sense of fairness that has to apply for that.
I get it.
I mean, we got so much questions because
We do. This
got a
can
lot
go for like 3 days. Trust me, shoot that.
because there's a lot. Because
Maybe
I
we'll
don't-
have to do a part 2 one
I
day.
know. Absolutely, I'm down
because they
for
got
it.
so many things that you don't know. Like when you get stopped, what if you go to court? What you gotta do? Like they got so many things. I mean, pretty much somebody that's from a different country. They
Right.
come here. They don't have no idea how the laws goes. It'd be nice. Sometimes I watch some videos. I'm like the guys stop the cops stop them, and they're just like, you can do that to me because of this, and this.
Right.
That's pretty cool to me. I'm like, man, I wish I know I can sit down and read this thing, but I mean, I don't know all this.
Here's the
this stuff.
deal. everyone should read our state and U.S. Constitution. Just sit down and read them. They're not that long, okay? And when you read them, you will truly understand why the United States of America is the greatest country on the face of this earth. Regardless of our flaws, regardless of our imperfections, regardless of how we fall short of the glory of God, we're still the freest, greatest country on the earth because of the rights we have when the power of the state comes against us. And that's all I got to say about that.
But you know what?
You can tell that lawyer side coming out.
But you know what's crazy to me though? It's just the fact that sometimes, so I can understand like a civilian that doesn't know the law.
Right.
But it's kind of hard for me as a police officer. That's what you worked at, that you don't know the law. That's crazy to me because sometimes they abuse people because of authority or power.
Right.
And sometimes they abuse the people's rights.
Right.
But sometimes they don't even know it because I'm watching the little thing, the guys, they don't even know the law.
Yeah, look, it's just like, I don't know, plumbing or electrical workers or accountants or whatever it is. Just because they have that title doesn't mean they actually know everything about it. And police officers, firemen, everybody, same way. You're going to have some guys who just haven't read everything they were supposed to have read. They haven't done the training they're supposed to have done. That's just a reality of the human existence, I'm afraid.
I mean, I understand that, but I feel like this is like a sticky willy situation when you're a police officer because you can destroy somebody's life.
I agree. You got a higher duty
Yes.
to know what you're doing when you're an officer or a lawyer or a judge or when you have the power to take other people's lives and freedoms in your hand.
Yes.
There is a bigger duty on you to do it right. I 100% agree.
Thank you. I mean, I think there's no better way to say it.
That's a better way to say it. And also, one thing I always say, as we spoke off camera, I got my brother, my own brother, is going to become an LA trooper very soon.
Oh, congratulations.
No, thank you. But I've always said those guys are underpaid because that level of responsibility it takes because you're dealing with all kind of different people. You like the authority presence in every
On the street.
Yeah, on the streets. If you're in a traffic stop or some sort of disturbance, somebody call you to come to their house, and then it takes so much responsibility within that moment, and you're going to be dealing with different cases that don't look similar to anything that you could possibly have prepared or trained for.
Here's how I feel about it. For the amount of taxes I got to pay, I think they ought to double every cop's salary immediately.
Absolutely.
Okay? I think they ought to double every teacher's salary immediately. And for all the smack I hear talked about firemen, about how, well, most of the time they're sitting around the fire station. Oh, yeah? Well, when that call comes and they got to put the fire out at your house, or they got to have that medical guy show up to get you off that ground when you're having a heart attack, suddenly you'd double his pay too, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
That's how I feel about those kind of, I think cops are underpaid. I think it's horrible. I think that for the kind of money we pay in taxes, look, they tax you when you make it. They tax you when you spend it. They tax you when you live in it. They tax you when you earn it. They tax you when you own it. They tax you when you die.
Don't get me started, man.
Could they please use some of that to pay our officers
don't get me
better?
started.
I feel like that subject itself should be like two different podcasts, part
don't
one
get me
and part
started.
two.
But yes, I 100% think that we should pay our officers. Look, we expect so much of them.
Absolutely.
Let's pay them appropriately.
And also proper training. Those guys should get trained every 2 weeks or however it goes, to make sure they do the job in the most professionally manner ever.
Exactly. And in the greatest country in the world, we should pay our cops better than we do, period.
I agree 100%.
Because I feel like in the cops, because even though sometimes I wanna blame the cop because I feel like the way they treat you in a sense, but sometimes they probably in a sticky situation like 5 people. They was like they don't know what you have and they have a gun. So that when it comes to you, you feel like, man, I'm not a criminal, but he doesn't know that. And you can see sometimes you watch video, the guy just walked to the car and then the guy just started shooting him. So how would I know the difference between like, yes, you probably think you're a good guy. I don't know that.
Well, and that's what I tell people that all the time, both as a judge and as a lawyer. It's like, look, man, they're pulling you over on the side of a road in the dark and they have to walk up to that car. That's a scary situation.
That is a scary situation, exactly.
I wouldn't do it.
Me neither.
Okay, I'm sorry. Your brother, that's one hell of a man to be willing to do that. Because I'm sorry, I don't want to do it.
Yeah,
and so you got to give that grace to everybody a little bit. Look, if we're going to expect our officers to act and do and treat people in a certain way, we need to pay them better, and that's just that.
I mean,
Right.
that's just...
Because think about it, it is a scary situation. Like, you pull somebody at night, you have no idea who you're pulling over.
Yeah, they don't know that's you.
You can just assume, like, you might feel like I'm a good person, but he doesn't know that. How many times you've seen videos or heard about stories of a cop who pulled somebody over and got shot or got killed?
For nothing.
For
Yes.
nothing. So therefore, I'm sure in the back of his mind, he's playing all those situations as he's approaching.
He probably has a wife to go home to, got some kids to take care of. He's got a life too. She's got a life too. Whoever that, whether it's a male or female officer, look, they're people, man.
Absolutely.
You know, and look, same goes for the drug dealer they're arresting. That drug dealer's a person. Let's treat him like God's child.
Yep, the man had
Fair
38
play
rocks.
goes for everybody.
Man had 38 rocks, not 30.
I still can't get over that idiot.
I mean,
What was your reaction in that moment?
I didn't know what to
were
say
like,
for
oh
a
my
minute,
God.
man. I never seen that level of stupidity. Anyway,
so my question would be like, it's just crazy. Where's your favorite restaurant in town?
my favorite restaurant in town.
Yes.
Wow, man, I got a bunch of them.
Top three.
I'm a
three.
Cajun.
Top
I'm a
three.
Cajun, man. I like to eat.
There's top 3.
You know, it's hard to beat Steamboat Bill's on Broad Street. Okay,
my
over
spot.
Highway 14 and Broad Street. Hard to beat that one. It's hard to beat the Villa, the Harlequin Villa downtown. That's a delicious place. It's hard to beat Mazin's. It's hard to beat. Golly, don't get me started. That doggone Wasabi on Ryan Street. It's hard to beat them. It's hard to beat Luna's for a good sandwich. It's hard to beat Buffy's Po' Boys for a good po' boy. It's hard to beat Pujo Street. Heck, Pujo Street for breakfast is delicious.
Daryl's, man. What's wrong with you?
You know, I love Daryl's, but it's so messy, man. I use 50-11 napkins when I eat at Daryl's.
That's what makes it so good,
It's delicious, man.
So if you have to live in one city for the rest of your life, where would it be?
Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Why?
Best damn people in the world live right here.
So you never traveled to another city somewhere? I'm sure you had a chance to travel a lot and be like, man, that'd be a cool spot to at least retire or something like
I
that.
mean, you was in Paris not too long ago.
I was in Paris for the Olympics. I love Paris. And if I had a second place I could live, it might be Paris. But it also might be Mayo Park in New Mexico and in Colorado. It might be Eugene, Oregon, where I love to go watch track and field Diamond League meets every summer. There's just some wonderful places, and that's what life's all about, getting to take a little taste of everything. But
Yeah,
as
you're
far as
right.
where I'm going to live, Lake Charles, Louisiana is it.
Yeah, I got you. I heard
So
you.
what you want the people as a judge to know about you? Like, you know, anybody's watching, know if you're going to one wish or court, what they expect from you.
They're going to fairness. We're going to give everybody a fair shake. We're going to treat everybody with respect that is required of a public official, is to give everybody respect and treat them with dignity. And if you did wrong or you did right, if you're friend or foe, if you're somebody, you're black, you're white, you're purple, you're tall, you're short, you're whatever it is, you're getting treated fairly in Lake Charles City Court. And that's all there is to it.
And when they come to your court, what they're not supposed to be doing.
Wearing a Tupac shirt with a middle.
Don't wear a Tupac shirt that's got Tupac flipping off everybody. It's okay with the Tupac shirt, but not with flipping the bird. But come in trying to make a good impression, because that's respected. Okay, if you show respect, you will get respect. It's just that so. You know, if you want to be recognized, you got to recognize.
So if
I
you had to
agree.
go back to speak with your 15-year-old self, what would you tell them?
Whew. Man, that's a hard one. Me and my best friend, a guy named Shane Gaspar, we had a saying when we were 15 years old. We might regret doing some things, but we're not going to regret having not tried. And I'd go back and I'd say, Ron, that's a pretty damn good philosophy on life. That's what I'd tell my 15-year-old self.
Wow, that is nice.
Yes, sir.
That is nice. We've never had that answer before. That is nice, honestly.
That's a hell of a way to end the show, huh?
Yeah, it is. Judge, like, we really appreciate you stopping by, and I'm sure you got a chance to put a lot of urban myths to bed. Because I genuinely thought, hey, you pee on yourself, that's $a few $100,000 more.
You heard it here first. Don't do it, man.
You heard it
Don't
from
do it.
You heard it from the judge
Amen.
himself. And we appreciate you stopping by. It was a great conversation. I've learned a lot sitting there within the last, hour or so, learning so much from you and get to understand the justice system differently. I got a chance to see somebody that's practicing that law, and then I got a chance to look at it from a different eye view. Because a lot of time, me personally, I was trying to avoid the courtroom by any means necessary. That's why when I got a ticket, I just paid and move on. I just paid and move on. And so therefore, it was like really an amazing conversation. I've enjoyed it. And thank you for stopping by. And ladies and gentlemen, like, share, and subscribe. And one more thing, as an injury lawyer, if somebody want to actually get in touch with you for any case they may have going on, how do they get in touch with you?
Just Richard Law Firm. Google us. You know how it is nowadays. There's not a phone book. There's not any. If you just Google Richard Law Firm, you can find us. Easy peasy, man. And anything we can do to help, we always try to do for people.
If you want to get paid, we might get.
If you pee on yourself, that's the man to get your 300,000.
I'm glad I killed that urban
Hey,
myth.
I've heard that so many times. You have no idea.
That's horrible.
I've heard that from everybody, literally everybody. Now, you've even seen videos about it, like little schemes, like people make online, like, or if you've gotten a wreck and you pee or whatever, or throw some pee on yourself, $300,000.
I've just never heard it.
Said it so many times.
I've just never heard of that.
That's crazy
Because I think it's off right now. Like, you good.
But I would think that. I think that was the thing. I really thought that was the
I've
thing.
heard it from so many people. Like she said, I've told people the same.
Cole, have you ever heard that? If you pee or poop on yourself when you get in a wreck? I've never heard of this. I'm sorry.
I think the judge might be wrong in this one because everybody heard of it but him.
Man, sometimes, I mean, when I leave my house, I keep my pee with me, man.
Hey, I think the judge might be wrong in this because literally everybody heard of it but him.